Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something pretty interesting. We're going to be deep diving into Dollar Industries Ltd. We've got their investor presentation, we've got their financials, all released today, November 11th, 2024. And, this is a company that's been around for over 50 years, and they're really known for their innerwear and outerwear.
Mhm.
But one of the things that really stood out to me in this investor presentation was they're really making a push into women's apparel. They even have this partnership with Peppy Jeans. And on top of that, they're making some pretty serious digital moves. So those are kind of the things that really stuck out to me. And one other kind of interesting tidbit is the chairman of the board just released a biography called $1 Million Smile. So I'm kind of interested to see if there's kind of a hidden success story woven into these numbers here. But overall, it looks like revenue is up, profits are up, and their e-commerce business is booming. So is this a company on the rise?
Well, what's really fascinating here is Dollar Industries is an Indian textile company that's been around for over 50 years. And they've really sort of, made their name in innerwear and outerwear. They have a variety of brands under their belt. But what we're seeing in these reports is a hint of a much broader ambition.
Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. Their Q2 FY25 revenue hit 4,469 million. That's an 8.3% jump year over year and a pretty staggering 33.9% increase compared to the last quarter. And for the first half of FY25, their revenue reached 7,806 million, a 5.4% rise year over year. So what is driving this growth spurt? Is it just strong demand or is there something else going on?
Well, strong demand is definitely there,
Yeah.
especially for their higher margin products,
Yeah.
which, that's a good sign for their profitability.
Yeah.
But it's more than just that. They're strategically diversifying their offerings and their revenue streams.
Well, and speaking of revenue streams, the revenue in Q2 from e-commerce alone skyrocketed 210.8% year over year. What are they doing that's so different that they're seeing that kind of growth in that segment?
They've really embraced digital transformation in a way that I think a lot of companies just talk about. They've got these streamlined systems like auto replenishment and distributor management systems, using them for real-time insights and efficiency. They've even transitioned to a more advanced ERP system, SAP S/4HANA, which can be a game changer for a company of this size.
So they're not just like selling online, they're really revamping their entire back end to be more data driven, which is really smart. But what about their brick and mortar presence? Aren't they also kind of revamping the distribution model with this Project Laksha?
Yeah, Project Lakshya is a really interesting initiative. It's essentially their plan to kind of revamp their entire distribution model, moving away from this traditional push system and towards a more demand-driven approach. It's all about control, data, and being able to respond quickly to what the market wants. And they've actually added 17 new distributors just in the first half of FY25, bringing the total to 307. And these Lakshya distributors are really making a difference. They now contribute 30.6% of revenue, which is up from 26.3% in FY24.
Wow. So they're playing both sides of the field. They're really embracing e-commerce while also, building out this more responsive data-driven physical distribution network. That's got to be a really potent combination.
Yeah, it really is. And their goal is to have 65 to 70% of their revenue come from these Lakshya distributors by FY26. So if they can pull that off, that's going to be a huge competitive advantage.
All right. Well, let's move on to profitability because the numbers here are also pretty impressive.
Well, absolutely. Their Q2 FY25 profit after tax, PAT, reached $265 million, which is a 6.6% increase year over year, and a really remarkable 73.2% jump from the previous quarter. And for the first half of the year, their PT totaled $418 million, up 6.1% year over year.
So what's driving these impressive numbers?
Well, a few things. We talked earlier about the shift towards higher margin products, so that's definitely contributing. And they're also seeing improvement in their gross profit margins. But there's also a really notable increase in their operating EBITDA, which is a key indicator of their core business health.
It makes you wonder if there are some cost management initiatives
Yeah.
that we're not really seeing in these reports. Their investor presentation mentions it, but it doesn't really delve into specifics. I feel like it's worth kind of digging deeper into their operational strategies to really see what's driving this profitability surge.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Often it's those subtle details that can reveal the most interesting insights into how a company is making decisions.
For sure. Okay. So we've talked about the numbers, but Dollar Industries isn't just about, crunching numbers and optimizing logistics. They're also shaking things up with their brand strategy. Remember how I said earlier that they're not just the Dollar Man company anymore?
Right. That's right. They're definitely making a concerted effort to diversify their brand portfolio. and target new customer segments.
Yeah, they've revamped their brand architecture. They've got Dollar Man, Dollar Woman, Dollar Junior, even Dollar Protect for rainwear. And they're branching out into new categories like women's lingerie. It seems like they're really trying to create a dollar brand for every need.
Well, it's smart, right? Because by expanding their brand portfolio, they're reducing their reliance on any single product or market segment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And that creates more resilience,
Yeah. So,
if consumer preferences shift or if there are, economic fluctuations.
yeah, that makes sense. And let's not forget that surprising partnership with Pepe Jeans. It seems like a pretty bold move for a company that's traditionally known for more mass market products.
Absolutely. Partnering with an international brand like Pepe Jeans could allow them to tap into a more premium market segment, which, could really enhance their brand image, attract new customers. It's a signal that they're aiming higher
Mm.
and they're willing to take risks to get there.
It really makes you wonder, are they trying to become like a one-stop shop for apparel? And if so, what does that mean for their future growth potential?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? They can successfully position themselves
Mm.
as this versatile apparel provider,
Mm.
offering everything from innerwear to outerwear to specialized products like rainwear and lingerie. You can see how that could unlock some serious growth opportunities.
Yeah.
But it also means they're going to be competing on multiple fronts, potentially against some really established players in those categories.
Right. And speaking of competition, these financial statements don't really give us a lot of insight into dollar industry's competitive landscape. So how do they stack up against their rivals?
Yeah, to really answer that question, we'd have to look beyond these reports. We'd want to look at industry analysis reports,
Mhm.
market share data, even news articles and competitor analysis. We'd want to understand their market share, how their brand is perceived compared to competitors like Jockey or Lux, how their pricing and distribution strategies compare.
Yeah, it's like putting together a puzzle, right? We need all the pieces to really see the full picture.
Exactly. And once we have that brighter perspective, we can start to assess whether their ambitious growth targets are realistic and, more importantly, sustainable in the long run.
Well, and they've set a target of 20,000 million in revenue by FY26. I mean, that's a huge jump.
It is ambitious,
Yeah.
but they're laying the groundwork with all these strategic moves. Their focus on digital transformation, their revamped distribution model, their brand expansion. It all points to a company that is preparing for significant growth.
Okay, so let's dig into some more specifics from these financial statements. When you look at their revenue sources, what really stands out to you?
Well, their investor presentation actually provides a really detailed breakdown of their revenue mix by brand, trade channel, region, and even gender. And it really kind of reveals how they're strategically positioning themselves for growth.
Okay, so brand-wise, Dollar Man is still their leading brand, but they're clearly diversifying.
Yeah. And that's smart. If they rely too heavily on one brand, it makes them vulnerable to market shifts.
Right.
But by expanding their offerings for Dollar Woman
Right.
and bringing in a prominent brand ambassador like Yami Gautam, they're making a play for a larger share of the women's market. And don't forget their new lingerie line under the Dollar Woman brand. That's a segment with huge growth potential.
Yeah, for sure. And then in terms of trade channels, it looks like the domestic market is still their stronghold, but they're seeing significant growth in both modern trade and e-commerce.
Yeah, and that really aligns with broader retail trends, right? Consumers are increasingly shopping online, and they're looking for more modern, experiential retail environments. And Dollar Industries is strategically positioning itself to capture those evolving consumer preferences.
Right, and geographically, they're strongest in the north, but they're clearly making efforts to expand their presence in other regions.
Makes sense. It's a classic growth strategy, right? Expand your reach, diversify your revenue streams.
Exactly. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. They've even broken down their revenue by gender.
Oh, wow. What does that tell us?
Well, it shows that men's products still dominate their sales, but women's and kids' products are gaining traction. It'll be interesting to see how these proportions shift as they continue to diversify their product portfolio and push into these new markets.
Yeah, it's a dynamic situation. And these numbers really provide valuable clues about the direction they're headed.
Thinking back to that biography of their chairman, $1 Million Smile, I wonder if there are any lessons from his journey that might shed light on the company's future.
That's a really interesting connection. A company's culture and leadership philosophy often play a huge role in its success. Maybe there's something in that title, something about the power of optimism or customer focus, or adaptability that's contributed to Dollar Industries' success.
It definitely adds another layer to our understanding of the company. There's always more to uncover than just what's on the surface.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely. And, we've talked a lot about the financial performance and the strategic initiatives, but there's another piece to this puzzle that's becoming increasingly important,
Right.
for investors and consumers alike.
You're talking about sustainability and corporate governance, right? Those factors that go beyond the pure financials.
Exactly. It's not just lip service anymore. Dollar Industries has a whole section in their investor presentation
Oh.
dedicated to ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors.
So it sounds like they're really taking this seriously.
They are, and it's a smart move. Investors are increasingly incorporating ESG considerations into their decision-making, and consumers, especially younger generations, are more likely to support companies that align with their values.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit, starting with the E, environment. What are they doing to minimize their environmental impact?
Well, for one thing, they're investing in renewable energy sources. They have a solar power plant in Tirupur with a capacity of 100 lakh units per year. And they also have 4 windmills, generating a total of 70 lakh units annually.
Wow, a solar plant, A&D windmills. That's a pretty serious commitment to clean energy.
It is, and it's not all. They've also implemented a zero liquid discharge system at their Tirupur facility.
Hold on. A zero liquid discharge system in the textile industry, which is known for its water usage. That's a huge GE deal.
It is. It really demonstrates a commitment to minimizing their environmental footprint.
And that could really give them an edge. With environmentally conscious consumers.
Oh, absolutely. That's becoming more and more important for companies these days.
Okay, so let's move on to the S, social. What kind of initiatives do they have around employee well-being, diversity, and community engagement?
Well, their investor presentation highlights several key initiatives. They've got employee engagement programs, skill development training, and a strong focus on women's empowerment.
It's great to see them investing in their employees.
It is. A happy workforce is a productive workforce.
Exactly.
They're also actively promoting diversity and inclusion, which is essential for fostering a culture of respect and equal opportunity.
And are they involved in any community development projects?
Oh, yeah. They've made significant donations to support education for underprivileged children. They're helping to improve healthcare facilities and providing access to clean water in several states across India.
It's really inspiring to see a company putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to corporate social responsibility.
It suggests that they're not just focused on profits, but on being a responsible corporate citizen.
Okay, so lastly, let's touch on the G, governance. What can we glean about their corporate governance practices?
Well, transparency and accountability seem to be high priorities for them. Their investor presentation highlights the diversity and experience of their board of directors, with independent directors making up 50% of the board.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. A diverse and independent board can provide really valuable perspectives and help ensure effective oversight. And to further emphasize their commitment to good governance, 75% of their audit committee members are independent directors, which is really important for maintaining financial transparency. And all members of their nomination and remuneration committee are also independent directors, which helps ensure fairness in executive compensation and leadership appointments.
And they've got 2 women independent directors on their board.
Right, which is a positive step towards greater gender diversity in leadership positions.
For sure. So overall, it seems like Dollar Industries is really striving to uphold high standards of corporate governance.
They are. And that's a key factor in building trust with investors,
Yeah.
stakeholders.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We talked about Dollar Industries' financial performance, their strategic initiatives, their sustainability efforts, and their corporate governance practices.
Yeah, it's been a really fascinating deep dive. It's clear that this is a company in transition. They're evolving, adapting to the changing world.
Right.
They're embracing e-commerce, revamping their distribution model, diversifying their brand portfolio, and prioritizing sustainability and good governance. It'd be really interesting to see how all of these efforts translate into future success.
They've set some pretty ambitious targets, including reaching that 20,000 million in revenue by FY26. So whether they can actually achieve those goals remains to be seen. But they're definitely taking the right steps to position themselves for growth.
And remember that biography we talked about, $1 Million Smile. Maybe it holds some clues to their success. Maybe it's a story of resilience, optimism, a deep understanding of the customer. I think it's worth exploring further.
Yeah. Sometimes understanding the people behind the numbers can provide the most valuable insights.
Wow.
This has been a really interesting deep dive. Dollar Industries is definitely a company worth watching. They're not just adapting to the future, they're actively shaping it. This deep dive has given us a lot to think about, and I encourage you to continue exploring and asking those tough questions. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about their financials and their strategic initiatives, but there's another really important aspect we need to consider: sustainability and corporate governance.
Yeah, those are really becoming key factors, not just for investors, but for consumers too.
Exactly. And Dollar Industries actually has a whole section in their investor presentation
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to ESG,
Oh, wow.
environmental, social, and governance factors.
That's impressive.
So let's dive into the E environment. What are they doing to minimize their environmental impact?
Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was their investment in renewable energy. They have a solar power plant in Tirupur. Yeah. And 4 windmills.
Yeah. The solar plant has a capacity of 100 lakh units per year, and the windmills generate a total of 70 lakh units annually.
That's a pretty significant commitment to clean energy, especially for a company in the textile industry.
Right. And they're not stopping there. They've also implemented a zero liquid discharge system at their Tirupur facility.
A zero liquid discharge system. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It means they're not releasing any wastewater into the environment.
Wow. That's a huge deal for any company, but especially in an industry that's known for its water usage.
It really shows that they're serious about sustainability.
Okay. So let's move on to the S, social. What kind of initiatives do they have around employee well-being, diversity, and community engagement?
Well, they have a lot of different programs in place. They have employee engagement programs, skill development training, and they really seem to be focusing on women's empowerment.
It's great to see a company that's investing in its employees.
Definitely. It's
Yeah.
so important to create a positive work environment.
Absolutely. And what about community engagement? Are they involved in any community development projects?
Yeah, they are. They've actually donated a significant amount of money to support education for underprivileged children, improve healthcare facilities, and provide access to clean water in several states across India.
That's amazing. It's one thing to talk about corporate social responsibility, but it's another thing to actually take action.
Right.
Okay, so finally, let's talk about the G governance. What can we learn about their corporate governance practices?
Well, one thing that stands out is their commitment to transparency and accountability. Their investor presentation highlights the diversity and experience of their board of directors.
Okay,
And independent directors actually make up 50% of the board.
that's a good sign.
And to further emphasize their commitment to good governance, 75% of their audit committee members are independent directors. And all members of their nomination and remuneration committee are also independent directors.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it really shows that they're taking corporate governance seriously.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've looked at Dollar Industries' financial performance, their strategic initiatives, their sustainability efforts, and their corporate governance practices. It's clear that this is a company that's evolving and adapting.
Yeah, they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve.
And with their ambitious growth targets,
Mhm.
it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for Dollar Industries.
Definitely.
Maybe that chairman's biography holds some clues to their success.
$1 million smile.
Yeah, maybe.
It might be worth checking out.
I think so.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive,
It's been a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time.